In today's video, we'll be speaking with the author, keynote speaker, and founder of Selling in Color Sales System, Jamarr Brown.
Annie talks, Annie talks. Welcome to the show. Here we go with Annie talks. Annie talks, Annie talks. Welcome to the show. Here's the host. It's Annie talks.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to my channel. If you're brand new to my channel, thank you so much for stopping by. And if you've been here before, as always, thank you, and welcome back. Today, I have the privilege of speaking with Jamarr Brown, who is the keynote speaker. He's an author and the founder of Selling in Color Sales System. Jamarr, thank you so much for being here.
Annie, thank you so much. It's my absolute pleasure to be on your show today.
Can I just tell you how much carte blanche he has? Because he comes here and he says, put up the easy up. He asked for an umbrella originally, and they came up with an easy up. Honestly, this is clout.
Well, the thing about it is, I spent so much money in this restaurant that putting up an easy up was a small price to pay for my many years of money I spent here. But it's a beautiful restaurant where, I don't know if we can say the name of it. Okay, great. We're at Citrus Grill in Corona, California, a beautiful restaurant, and one of the places that I come here a lot with my friends and family and hang out, have a good time. So I'm very comfortable here, and it's a beautiful backdrop. So it's a great setting for us today.
Awesome. So, Jamarr, give us a sense of your background. Let everybody know kind of your upbringing and your education and that kind of thing.
Okay, I'll give you the short version of a long story. So I grew up in San Diego, California, and my parents were incredible. I have three brothers. I'm a middle child, and so I was a typical middle child, always thought that I was, not getting the attention that I deserved, and was always fighting for things, and always felt that, my older brother got something because he's the oldest, and my younger brother got something because he was the youngest, and I was just trapped in the middle. And so I had that complex growing up. I think I still have it today. But my parents were great. My mom really taught us the importance of family, and her whole attitude was that your child's life, that a parent's role is to ensure that their child's life is better than their own. So her whole life was dedicated to raising me and my brothers, and was phenomenal. And my dad was all about education. He had us reading at a very young age. He had us studying words. He had us, family nights were spent with him telling us to go look up a word like chagrin. We're like, what the heck does that mean? And we had a small library in our house. He would have us go to the library, pick out a book, find the word, research it, and then put it in a sentence. And so I grew up really in an incredible household where education and family were always, just at the forefront of everything that we did.
What type of work were you doing before you became an entrepreneur and keynote speaker?
Well, my background is really in the healthcare field, pharmaceuticals, medical devices, and biotech. I actually got my first job when I was at Whittier College. Allergan Pharmaceuticals, makers of Botox, which is why I look so young, hired me to be their very first summer intern when I was at Whittier College. And I spent 2 summers there and had 2 incredible summers. The second summer, they had me in San Diego in a mini sales territory at age 18. And it was just an incredible experience. And so I graduated. Allergan Pharmaceuticals hired me as their very first intern that was hired to be a sales rep in Los Angeles. And I spent 13 years there. And then, in different positions, sales, training, marketing, management, regional sales director. And I went on to a couple of other medical device and pharmaceutical companies as well as a VP of sales and a national sales director. So that was pretty much my life and my career, which is what I thought I was going to do with the rest of my life, until I had an epiphany and things changed, and which I know we're going to get to. But that's my entire background in the healthcare field: sales, marketing, training, and leadership.
So what was the aha moment that made you jump ship and become an entrepreneur?
It's a great question, Annie, because like many people, you have a path in life, and you're just on that path. And then every now and then, there's something inside you that says, do something else, or try this. And you go, why? I mean, everything's great. Why do I want to do something else? But that voice builds inside of us, and you can't deny it. And you try to push it down because of fear and all those things, but it just gets louder and louder, and it becomes more and more painful to not address. And so what happened for me is I was fortunate enough to win Salesperson of the Year at Allergan Pharmaceuticals after, spending 2 years at the bottom, almost getting fired. And so I had the idea of writing a book about that story. But it took me 7 years to write that book. And the reason why is because for the first 6 years, I was worried and scared and afraid of what people might think if I wrote a book, would they like it? Would people buy it? Am I worthy to write a book? And all these things that entrepreneurs go through when you think about doing something that's different from what the typical path is for most people. And the long story short, in terms of the aha moment was, I remember my daughter was 5 years old. It was Halloween night several years ago, and she knocked on my office, and I was in my office working on this book. I had only had like maybe 20 pages written after 6 years, so it was nothing. And I looked at her, and she was in her Superwoman costume, and I just thought to myself, I've been thinking about this book since before she was born, and here I am still thinking about it. And in that instant, the aha moment was, stop worrying about how you're going to do it and focus on why you're doing it. And my purpose was to leave a legacy for her, to show other professionals that no matter what your background is, you can always have success no matter where you start, because that was my story. And so a year later, I had written the book. I did an audio program on the book. I was being hired to go and speak at companies and at events about the book. And that was the start of my entrepreneurial transition.
Was it scary? I mean, you kind of just left a secure position and then just kind of going all feet in.
Yes.
Was it scary?
It was so scary at times. It was debilitating. And everybody goes through that, and I'm not a trust fund baby. My parents didn't have a ton of money. I was the first, of the four boys in my family to go to college. I was on this career path that I was making great money and had a family and everything. And so people thought I was kind of nuts when I started to even talk about doing something different. But the why just got bigger and bigger, and I couldn't stop thinking about it. And I thought to myself, if I want to tell my child that you can, be anything you want to be, or at least try it, then I need to do that myself.
Lead by example.
Absolutely. And that was a turning point for me. And so as scary as it was, it got to the point where it was more scary to have regret of not doing it than it was scary to do it and have it fail. Now, let me tell you, some things didn't work. A lot of things didn't work. Some things I had no clue, what I was doing, and I had a lot of struggles and quote-unquote failures, but I kept learning, I kept growing, and it just got better and better, but it was extremely scary. And so the one thing I would tell everyone is, two things real quick. Number one is have a why. When you have a purpose behind what you're doing, you could battle through a lot of things. If you're not clear on your purpose, and not just money and title and fame, but your family member, a son, a daughter, a legacy for someone you're trying to help, that's purpose. And the second thing is to fear regret. On my tombstone, hopefully not for another 50 years, but I wanted to read, Jamarr lived his life with no regrets. And to me, it's just such a great way to live life. That doesn't mean that everything's going to work out, but it does mean that sometimes you try something and you think one thing, but something opens up, you go, this is 10 times better than what I thought. And that has pretty much happened every time I've tried something. It never looked the way that I thought it was going to look. It was always in some way, shape, or form better because of the outcome or because of what I learned. And so fear regret more than failure is what I would tell entrepreneurs out there.
Was there any specific person that maybe inspired you? Did you have somebody that mentored you? Who did you look up to, and who helped you along your path?
Well, it's such a great question. And, one of the things that I tell people is, fortunately, I've had a lot of success in my life in corporate, being salesperson of the year, sales manager of the year, being a VP of sales at age 30. And then personally, I've written 3 books, several audio programs, had a TV show, a radio show, and all those things. What I tell people, it had nothing to do with me. I'm not this highly intelligent, brilliant person. I am not. What I will say, what I do take credit for, is that I listened to people that were willing to teach me things, and I was smart enough at times to apply what they told me, to do what they told me to do. So every single step of the way, there were some mentors that came into my life that said, Jamarr, when you write a book, this is what you want to do. Like, for example, one of my mentors said, because I wanted to, write a book. Honestly, this was my goal. Have it sell a couple million copies and retire, and just write more books. And so that was, and it came out on the market. It sold, maybe a few thousand, but I didn't get rich, and I was disappointed and I was upset. And he said, no, your book is your business card. Think of the doors it can open if you position it the right way. And so I started using it in that way, and I got job opportunities based on the book that, were very lucrative. But I would have never thought about that if that mentor didn't open up my eyes and if I didn't listen. And so what I would tell people is, there's people in your life, It could be right now in this moment. People that you meet, randomly that tell you things, and just listen to people. Open up your heart, open up your mind. Don't have a preconceived thought, notion, or idea about how things are going to be. Have a blank sheet of paper and then listen and apply what people tell you. So the mentors in my life, every step of the way, have told me things. I've applied it, and that's the only reason why I could be here today saying that, I've done all these things, because of that listen and apply mentality.
I remember being in the corporate environment as well, and we had educational programs and learning modules that we had to go through. And I remember a colleague once telling me that she took out her little notepad and she was writing notes, and I thought to myself, what are you writing, or what are you doing? And she said, oh, for every speaker that I hear, I always garner something, and I always have to write notes.
Yes. Well, I mean, I brought some props here, and one prop is my phone. And what I do is, like when we met, recently, when I spoke at an event, you were there, and so graciously came up to me and said you'd like to talk to me, and I really appreciate that. I'm humbled by that. But I wrote about that moment of my life and my phone, and so I keep a log of just little thoughts and ideas. And what I do is I will take 10-15 minutes and talk about it. And then some of these motivational talks go on my radio show. I've turned those talks into a book called Break It Down Brown, in which I take, these 15-minute motivational talks, have them transcribed, and those become chapters in a book, because I'm constantly learning, constantly growing. My most prized possession, writing-wise, I don't know how well people can see this, is this thing right here. This is a journal that I keep for my daughter. And I've been keeping a journal for her since we found out that my wife was pregnant. And it contains the history of my life. It contains my thoughts, my ideas, what I'm thinking about her. And so, to your coworker's point, I'm constantly writing things down, constantly learning. And I encourage people to do that, because everybody's life is so important.
So the concept of journaling, the concept of taking notes, that kind of thing, can lead to aha moments and other inspirational events.
Absolutely. And there's so many nuggets that I've been told that I am honored to share with your audience. One of those nuggets is from one of my mentors, who always tells me, you haven't thought of your greatest idea yet. And every single time I have an idea that I think is brilliant, he says, Jamarr, you haven't thought of your greatest idea yet. For example, I had an idea. I was a keynote speaker and motivational speaker, and I had this idea. I'm like, you know what? There's two things that we all need as speakers that unfortunately we don't get oftentimes: celebrity and an audience, right? And so I created the Break It Down Brown show, TV show, so I could bring on people like yourself, entrepreneurs, celebrities, and authors whose voice needs to be heard, and I could be that quote-unquote celebrity, and I can give them the audience. So I went to my mentor. I said, I have this great idea for this, show. He said, Jamarr, you haven't thought of your greatest idea yet. And so through that concept, I was able to take the show and put it on the radio, through a radio station. He said, Jamarr, you haven't thought of your greatest idea yet. Then I had the idea of taking the Break It Down Brown concept and turning that into a book using these audios that I was doing. And he said, Jamarr, you haven't thought of your greatest idea yet. And so my point is, more and more products and ideas came from that concept because of the journaling, because of talking to people, and because of just letting your mind open up to, there's always possibilities for things to evolve and to change, and just accept that.
So it's in essence, it's kind of reinventing yourself and getting creative and finding new ideas and never being content.
It's never being content. It's a great question. Is it reinventing? I think that's part of it. Or is it unleashing who you really are? So one of the things I wrote about just last night was the idea of when your life is not going well. People say that it's unraveling, right? It's falling apart. It's unraveling. It's coming undone. It's like the mummy that's being unwrapped, and now it just becomes a pile of tape, right? And I'm like, you know what? Is it really unraveling, or is it unveiling something? Because, we've all been to different events where they unveil, this piece of art. Or if you go to your son or daughter's event at school, they unveil the play and that type of thing. And I'm like, you know what? I think it's really about unveiling. And so when things happen in our lives, it's not unraveling. It is unveiling and uncovering who we really are. And if we just allow, that voice inside of us to speak, it's incredible what can happen. So, it's not being content or not content, or it's just being who Annie is, being who Jamar is.
Exactly. We've had a few of these podcasts and episodes before where other entrepreneurs have also said the same thing. Be yourself, right? Truly, be yourself, because that will reveal that will reveal the true person you are, and that makes you likable to others, and they have a sense of connection with you. They can resonate with you, and they can take what you say to them, in essence, and kind of run with it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, one of the most scary things is to be yourself sometimes, because people know a certain persona, they know a certain aspect of us, and that aspect could be a very successful aspect of us. When I was in corporate America, I had the money and the title and the envy of all my friends and all those things, but that was a small portion of who I really was. And not that I have anything against corporate America, because I don't. Matter of fact, I teach people how to be successful in corporate America, how to get promoted in corporate America, and how to really, maximize your time there. And I encourage that. But there's sometimes that there's other things you want to do. And if you're in a situation where you can't do what you want to do, then you either stay there and struggle through it, or find outlets for it, or you take a leap of faith and try something else. And so that's kind of what I did. But the reality is, it can be scary being who you are, but there's also such power when you start to really discover and unveil yourself to the world and own it. But people need to learn how to do that. It doesn't come naturally. It took me, like I said, 7 years for my first book. And there I was, I could share this one last thing with you. Here's the ironic thing about fear. I was salesperson of the year at Allergan Pharmaceuticals, the youngest person to ever do that. And I was scared to write a book about it. And there's books on sales at every bookstore, for people that have never even done sales, and they're just putting their product out there. So here I was, somebody that did it and was afraid to do it. So if you're out there and you're scared, you're nervous to do it, it's okay. But when you decide to own it and own your story and put it out there, it's amazing how much of a lift it is from your spirit or your soul, and what can happen in your life.
So, Jamarr, can you tell us about some of the obstacles you faced as an entrepreneur? You're maybe starting up or along the way.
Absolutely. And there's a 4-step process that I developed based on how I was able to get over the obstacles that I had in my way. I want to share that with your audience, if that's okay. And there's really 4 things. The first obstacle is that you doubt your own value. Because when you're selling somebody else's product, when you're selling somebody else's service, yes, it hurts when somebody says no, but you didn't create it. It's not your company. It's not your product. And so you're removed from it. But when it's your book, your program, your show, and somebody puts that little mad face, dislike, whatever that face is called, or when they say, I don't like it, or I don't want to buy it, you can easily take that very personally. And that prevents a lot of people from moving forward. And so the number one thing is to believe in your own value and separate yourself from your product or idea. Remember that the product or idea didn't make you. You made it. So you're removed from it. And if you made something, you can make something else. And so the first thing is believe in your own value. The second thing is to be unapologetic about who you are and what you do. And sometimes we are afraid to self-promote because what might people say? What might people think? And it's natural. I was the same way. But when you get to the point where you go, I own this. This is me. I was meant to do this. I'm going to put it out there, and you don't apologize for it. Then there's a power in that unleashing or unveiling who you are. And there's a couple ways you could do that. Number one, let people know what you do now, because they know you for what you used to do. Number two, let them know how they can help you now, because they might not even realize how they can help you now. Number three is to let people know why you do what you do. Give them an emotional reason as to why you're doing what you do. And the fourth thing is to always stay connected to your purpose. Because if you disconnect from your purpose, it makes it very difficult to move forward when things get challenging. One other, and that's, part of the third thing I would say, which is, once again, stick to your purpose. Because your purpose, if your purpose leads you, you will move forward in those tough times and in the good times as well. And when you are successful, which happens to a lot of people, they get successful and they become depressed and upset when they have achieved something, which you go, wow, how could that be? It's very common. I'll just explain why later. But if you have done it because of your purpose, you will feel fulfilled even in success as opposed to depressed when you have success.
So, segue into success. What are some of the most, what are some of your achievements, some of your successes that you can talk about?
You know what? Honestly, my success, from my perspective, is not so much what I've created. It's how I feel about myself. You know, I feel that I'm living a life of purpose. I feel fulfilled. I feel like I have no regrets. I feel like I'm being myself. Like I spoke at an event once, and after the event, it was at a college. One of the students came up to me and she said, "Jamarr, you know, you've written books, you've done TV, you've done radio, you've done all these things, you've been in corporate America. Like, what do you want to do next?" And I looked at her and I said, "There is no next for me. This is what I want to do. Helping students like yourself unveil and uncover their potential and unleash their potential is what I want to do." And I realized that my definition of purpose, which I hadn't thought about before, was when you are yourself 24 hours a day. When you wake up, you say what you want to say, you do what you want to do, you speak how you want to speak, and you treat people how you truly want to treat people. And there's no false airs. There's no, it's just you are who you are. That's not to say that you're going to be a filthy rich person. That's not to say that you make all the money in the world. It's not a matter of that. Yeah, I've made money and I've lost money too. That's irrelevant to how I feel about myself, because at the end of the day, I can look back and say, I lived the life I wanted to live. So that's my biggest success. We can get into the products and things like that, but it's how I feel, to me, is my success.
Do you want to talk about your selling in color system? I'd like to hear maybe just kind of a summary of that, and what can listeners and viewers garner from that?
Yes, absolutely. I think with the selling in color sales and communication training system, I'll tell you who it's for, and I'll tell you where it came from. So it's for entrepreneurs and small to mid-sized businesses to do two things. Number one, teach you how to sell the way your customers want to buy. If you're an entrepreneur, the number one thing you have to learn how to do is become a salesperson. Which is one of the most difficult things for people to do, is to be a salesperson. I can teach you how to do that in a way that's not threatening. It's not stressful. It's an easy process that I developed in terms of teaching how to do that. The second thing is around communication and teamwork, and I teach that better communication equals better productivity equals better results. The biggest issue in most businesses is miscommunication in the organization. I'm sure you can think of moments in your past where one person says one comment, and next thing you know, these people hate each other, and that person talks to that person talks to that person. The water cooler talk, the gossip, the drama gets out of control, and it's all for one moment in a person's life that could have been avoided if they knew how to effectively communicate. And that's the biggest travesty in business, is that people don't invest in communication skills training. So my system does that in a very fun, simple, and profitable way. That's all right. That's okay. We had a phone ringing. Yeah. Maybe it's one of my customers calling me. Yeah, we could keep going. That's fine. Yeah. Okay. So yeah, maybe that's somebody calling to try and hire me, which is great. But anyway, so that's what the program does, and it comes from my experience of going from last place in sales to number one in the country. When I first became a sales manager, I took over a team that was ranked second to last in the nation, and I actually hired a consultant who had developed the original Selling in Color program. He came in, taught our team all these principles, and we won Sales Team of the Year. And all these videos, the videos of my acceptance speech for Salesperson of the Year and Sales Manager of the Year, are on YouTube under Jamarr Brown. So people can look at those videos and see me talk about this. So there's no theory for me. This is all reality. But that's what the system does, and that's what it's all about.
So tell us again, how can we find this, and how can people buy into the program?
Absolutely. So you can go to sellingincolor.com, sellingincolor.com. You can learn about the system, watch some videos, see some testimonials from clients that I work with, because every time I work with somebody, I get a testimonial video because I believe in it so much, and I put them on the spot and say, tell me what you think. And so you can see all those videos on there, and you can also call me directly at 949-371-9077, and then reach out to me as well, Jamarr at JamarrBrown acclaimed.com, and I'd love to talk to you about the system and schedule a free 20-minute strategy session so you can learn more about the system.
And I will have all that information linked down below in the show notes or in the description box, so you all can follow along, and if you can contact Jamarr directly if you're interested in this program. So what are one of the biggest challenges or obstacles that you see entrepreneurs doing?
I think one of the biggest challenges is an imbalance between executing something and thinking about it. What I mean by that is sometimes we spend so much time wanting things to be perfect, and we get convinced by people that do marketing and all these things that we have to have everything perfect. You have to have your branding done and your website done. Everything has to be perfect. And I read a quote recently which was 90% of planning is procrastination, right? Yeah. And so a lot of times it's procrastination, it's fear, it's self-doubt, it's all these things that are really at play, as opposed to, when it's masked around, I have to get everything right. And what I say is, done is better than perfect. Sometimes you have to have a ready, fire, aim approach, because you won't know how something is going to turn out unless you execute it, unless you put it out there. And I'm not saying you just do something really basic and throw it out there. Don't be sloppy with it. But it's never perfect. And sometimes things evolve, things change. Not sometimes, every time things evolve, things change. I'm sure when you first started your show, you had it a certain way, and then it evolved. You expanded, you got new equipment, you expanded your theme more. And so a lot of people spend so much time thinking and thinking and thinking as opposed to taking action. So I would say for the entrepreneur out there, or the potential entrepreneur, take action. Get yourself out there and then make adjustments, because you won't know what people are going to want or not want until you're actually in front of them selling it.
That's very good advice. Now, how important is feedback? Do you ask people for feedback? Do you request feedback to see how you could maybe better yourself as well, or how do you go from there?
It's such a great question, and absolutely. I mean, I think getting feedback is critically important, but there's some obstacles with feedback. Yeah. One obstacle is, I'll give you a couple. One obstacle is sometimes 100 people can tell you what they love about something, but you listen to one person that says what they don't like about it. And all of a sudden you feel bad and depressed and sad, and you go, wait a second here, keep things in perspective. If 100 people say things are great and they're willing to buy it, and one person isn't, understand why they don't want to, but let your heart settle in on the people who actually love it, right? Give yourself some slack. The second thing about feedback is Jim Rohn, who's an incredible motivational speaker and author who passed away, had a great quote, which was, don't sign up for that class. What that means is, like when you go to college and you major in business, you should take business classes. If you're taking science classes and art classes and underwater basket weaving, you're not going to graduate. So be careful what you listen to. And the same thing with business is, what information is going to be conducive to your success? Not just good stuff, but constructive criticism as well. So put that into that same category of helping you move forward. And so if you listen to people who are detrimental to your success, who are negative, who are naysayers, who are what I call them in my Break It Down Brown book, but people, you will be derailed very, very quickly. But if you listen to people who provide constructive criticism, who support you, who give you honest feedback, then accept that feedback. And so that's what I would share with the audience around getting feedback.
Let's take a moment to look back and reflect. What you know now, what would you tell your 21-year-old self?
It's a great question. I've had successes and learnings. I want to say failures because I've always learned. But there is one regret that I do have. And that is, I talked about the importance of listening to mentors, right? And I've always done that except in one situation. When I was first thinking about becoming an entrepreneur and releasing my first book, I was at a company. I'd been there for a number of years, and they had treated me wonderfully. I had such great mentors and teachers. But when I was being recruited away, actually to work at a different company, and I was going through these thoughts of, man, do I release the book? And what are people going to say? And I was struggling miserably with that. I didn't speak to my mentors at the company. I said, let me do this on my own. Let me be my own man, right? Even though what had gotten me to that point of success at that time was the people who supported me and mentored me. And so I walked away. without having a conversation with them. Would it have changed my decision? Maybe, maybe not. That's not the important thing. The important thing is stay connected to people who support you. Keep those people close to you, your confidants. Don't separate yourself from people. Don't try to be your own man or your own woman. Let people help you. Let people guide you. And so I would tell my younger self, have the discussion. Don't just go out on your own, because people have supported you for so many years. Let them support you, And so that's what I would tell my younger self.
Very, very good advice. Good advice for me, good advice for everybody. Definitely. Okay, so we talked a lot about the business and the entrepreneur and, going forward. But let's talk about work-life balance.
Okay.
What do you do for leisure?
You know what? I love golf. Oh. Absolutely love golf. And some people play golf and they go out there and get frustrated. They're miserable and they complain. Yeah. And I used to be that way when I took it that seriously. But now it's just a way to reconnect with friends and have a good time and take 4 to 5 hours and just be. And then after the round of golf, we go to the bar and have a drink and just talk and joke around. So that's one of my favorite pastimes. I love spending time with my daughter. She plays lacrosse, and so she and I would go to the gym, go to the park, practice together and work out together and that type of thing. That's fun. I love traveling. To me, I think that you make money to travel and to enjoy it as opposed to keep it in the bank. And so whether it's a short trip to Palm Springs or whether it's going to Brazil or whatever the case may be, or our cruise, I love getting out there and meeting people. And then I'm a consummate writer. I'm always writing, working on books, writing my journal to my daughter, doing audio programs where I motivate and help people. And then the final thing is just spending time with family. I think when I didn't have balance, I was so focused on my career that I kind of pushed family aside. And, my parents are still alive, thank God, and they are not too far from me. And so in the last few years, I've said, you know what? I'm going to spend as much time as possible with my parents. And so we talk all the time. I see them all the time. And that's kind of how I keep my balance.
So at speaking engagements, what do you find most people or most entrepreneurs are eager to learn about and to learn about you and learn about your business?
I think it's a very interesting question because I always try to look at the deeper meaning behind the things that happen. So when somebody walks up to me, I try to really think, let me connect to what are they really asking me. And so what people usually ask is not what they really want. So oftentimes they ask about, how did you grow your business and sort of the products that you've created and things of that nature, the business side. What they really want to know is, am I worthy to do it? How do I conquer my own personal fear of putting things out there? Because as I said before, people get caught up in marketing and it's, I need to have my marketing perfect, but that's really not the truth. The truth is that's a crutch, or it's a way to, push off the inevitable, which is I have to put my product and service out there, and I'm scared to death of doing that. And so what I try to do is to let them know through my own journey that, like I said, I didn't grow up with a silver spoon. My parents didn't have a lot of money, and I've taken some chances and some risk. Certain things took me years and years to finally accept and just be myself. And so I share that with people, and I want to be transparent. And so, yes, I could talk to you about sales and communication and leadership and marketing and all those things, which is what my business has been over the years. But more importantly is let's have a conversation about Annie. Let's talk about what's going on in your world. Let's talk about what are the mental blocks that are preventing you from unleashing yourself to the world. That's what I really try to get people to understand, because once you have that under control, everything else is easy. Everything else is you plug into a marketing program, you plug into a social media platform, you plug into all these things. But until you get this right, you're either not going to plug into those things, or you're going to, I don't want to half, what it, and you're not going to unleash yourself. So a lot of it is helping people uncover what is the emotional mental block that is preventing them from unveiling themselves to the world. Then we talk about the business stuff.
Wow. I never even thought about that, actually. So that's very good. So now I know a better way to maybe approach you or to other keynote speakers and really find out something more deeper about myself.
Yeah, yes. I can't speak for other keynote speakers because not everybody is willing to be that vulnerable. Not everybody is willing to really share what in their own personal life prevented them from moving forward. You see these, ads on Facebook all the time, and, whether somebody's teaching you how to be a speaker or a coach, and everybody's made millions. I'm like, Okay, have all these people really made all these millions? I don't. Maybe they have, maybe they haven't. I'm not a hater, so I'm not judging them, but I'm just saying, but, before you can even be able to make all these millions, I would imagine you have to work on yourself. Like how do you even, take all this information that they're sharing with you? Let's say you do spend that $900 for a program. That doesn't mean you're going to use it, because you may be scared to death of it. You may be afraid. You may be fearful. You may have these hesitations. You may have this feeling of unworthiness. So I start there with people, because that's what my life has been. And I'm vulnerable enough to say, you know what? I think there's strength in vulnerability and letting people know I'm not perfect. I didn't just wake up with all this stuff. And so I don't know what other speakers say and think and coach, but for me, I connect with people that way. Then once you have that under control, then we talk about your business.
For parting words, what can you tell entrepreneurs, startups, people that want to take the leap? What would you tell them?
I would say to go back to your childhood and remember the kid that had the mind that was wide open, that was free, that would just believe anything's possible, And one of the games that, we used to play as a kid, and it's such a beautiful day. I don't see any clouds in the sky, but as a child, when there were clouds in the sky, we would just lay on our backs and look up. And our game was, how many shapes could we create from the clouds? And I don't know if you ever played that game as a kid. And it was amazing, because you realize that your mind has this immense power to create and to think and to own and control everything. And as we get older, we put that aside. We get more set in our ways. We stop learning. We stop growing. We stop looking at the clouds. We start looking down at the dirt and saying, one day I'm going to be down in that dirt, as opposed to thinking how great things could be. And so I would say, go back to your childhood and remember that child. And then fast forward to the 11th hour of your life when, things are kind of said and done. And I would say, and think back and tell yourself, what would I want to tell my younger self? What would I want to say in that moment? And live that way today. Live your legacy now. Don't wait. Not just live your legacy, but love your legacy. It's not a matter of how much money you make or title or power, but it's whatever you're being called to do. Find an outlet for it. Find a way to do it. Don't have any regrets. And so be the child and the person at the 11th hour right now. Let that converge and be that person in the moment.
All very nice, wonderful nuggets. Everybody go check out Jamarr Brown's social media, and have all the links for you down below in the show notes and in the description box. Jamarr, thank you so much for being here.
Annie, it's my pleasure. You do a phenomenal job. I love all your shows. I love what you're doing. And you're just an absolute pleasure to be around. So thank you so much.
I appreciate it. Thank you. Well, that's it, everybody. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, be sure to give it a thumbs up. Be sure to comment down below and let me know if you are interested in learning more about Jamarr Brown. And again, like I said, I'll have all that information down below for you in the show notes and description. Jamarr, thank you again for being here.
Annie, thank you so much. My pleasure. Thank you.
And if you haven't already subscribed, everybody, be sure to hit the subscribe button down below. Don't forget to hit the notification bell so that anytime we upload a video, you all will be notified. Thank you all again so much for watching, and keep listening and watching Annie Talks. We'll see you in my next video. Promotional consideration provided by Luxwear Trends, affordable, luxurious timepieces for every occasion. Luxury that lasts forever, and that's what sets us apart from others. Find us on Facebook and Instagram, or visit luxweartrends.com. That's LUXE weartrends.com. Comfotherm thermal wraps are designed to help relieve the pain and swelling in and around the jaw, especially after wisdom teeth extractions. For more information, visit comfotherm.com. That's comfotherm.com. Thank you for watching. Be sure to comment and like below.
Are you on the screen?
No, don't move.
Oh, sorry.
Stay where you are.
Okay.
Okay, good.
All right.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Breathe. Annie, breathe.